Hello adventurous travelers and friends, and welcome back to a Bragworthy Adventures video. Today we are taking a flight on Southwest and seeing what it's like traveling with the new social distancing measures. So obviously the world has kind of been shut down, and a lot of us haven't gone anywhere in a number of months, including myself. The last flight I took was in February to Dallas, Texas to visit my sister, and in August I got a chance to visit her again. So it was the same flight, 7 months later, completely different. So I thought I would share my experience with you in case you are determining whether or not you want to fly, or if you already have a flight planned and you want to know what to expect. So hopefully this proves helpful to you. If you like travel content like this, go ahead and subscribe below, and let's hop into what I saw when I was there. Now, obviously the first thing, when you walk into the airport, you've got to have your mask on. They want your mask on all the time. Of course, they're trying to keep people safe. There's one moment where you do take your mask off. It just went through security, and they had you take your mask off for just 1 second. So like when they're checking your ID, they have you pull it down. But otherwise it was really simple, really open. A couple things, I actually forgot to take my shoes off and to get my ID out because it's been so long. But it was pretty simple, and it's so empty here. Now I felt like security and getting to my gate was pretty similar to how it used to be. Other than the fact that I'm wearing a mask, everything else was about the same. I had to remove the same sort of items, remove my shoe, do the little scanner thing, and the only big difference there was that there was hand sanitizers all over and that there weren't as many people. It was kind of a ghost town, and there were a lot more stores shuttered up than typical and a lot less restaurants open. Now, of course, Starbucks was still open, and there were still some people there, and they usually clustered in certain areas, which I actually thought was worse. We have all this empty space, but we all have to cluster in the same four corners. The places we clustered, though, made a little bit of sense. Obviously, the only open restaurants were the places people were, and the only gates where flights were taking off were the places people were. Now, I flew on Southwest, and so I'm going to be telling you my experience on a Southwest airline flight. Of course, every airline is different and every airport is different, so keep that in mind. Your experience might be slightly different, but overall I think it'll be pretty similar. Once I got to my gate, I noticed that they have plexiglass for each one of the desk areas where you can speak to a Southwest employee. They also had the seats marked off. This is in Fort Lauderdale airport. They had the seats marked off so that people weren't sitting directly next to each other. Now, I noticed in the Dallas airport as well as the Atlanta airport, there weren't the seat markings. I did feel like the seat markings were helpful. When they were ready to board my flight, the boarding process had changed. They had less people coming up at a time. However, that doesn't stop all the ridiculous people who think that standing right up near the front of the gate is going to get them on any faster. As is typical, the boarding process was a crapshoot. Everyone just gets up there and tries to think if they stand next to the gate, then they're going to be first, which is stupid because it's numerically ordered. But getting on now. So it did make me a little uneasy how many people clustered up front when it's supposed to only be groups of 10 going at a time, with all the people on the same side of those boarding poles that tell you what number to be at. So I know Southwest was trying to social distance, but I think the people kind of ruined that opportunity to do something safer. Also felt like people weren't really all that safe once we got onto the little walkway to get onto the plane. They didn't exactly keep 6 feet from me front and back, maybe a little like 2 feet, but it didn't feel like the right amount. Now, when I went to Disney World, it felt way safe, and they had all these stripes on the ground so people would know where 6 feet was, which I definitely think Southwest could have incorporated on that walkway, and it might have been a better process. But that's not what happened, and it did get a little tight there, a little nerve-wracking there. On the plane, after people had gotten boarded, it was middle seats open. Now I know Southwest is planning on removing that process in the future, so we'll have to see how things change then, but right now, as of August, they were having no one sit in the middle seat unless you are a party of 3 that have all come together, or if you're a party of 2 that has the whole row together, of course you can sit directly next to each other with no one else in your row. You can't sit you and your boyfriend next to a stranger though. If you're gonna fill a whole row, it has to be everybody knows everyone and has already shared germs together for a while. Now on the flight, you're supposed to keep your mask on the whole time. This is from the moment you get to the airport to the moment you're in your new spot, you're supposed to have your mask on. I will tell you, I don't feel like people listened very well to those instructions. There were 2 guys behind me who had their masks off and were chatting with each other, and they didn't know each other. Not safe. There were some people who would just have it underneath their nose the whole time. You can take your mask off to eat and drink, but you're not supposed to just be fiddling around with your mask all the time. It defeats the purpose. Now, this is kind of typical on planes. People like to make themselves comfortable, regardless of how it makes other people feel. That's why you see the ladies take their shoes and socks off and stick their bare feet in places they don't belong. That's the same with masks. People wore them how they wanted instead of how they were supposed to. So keep that in mind. It is something you have to deal with. You're in a tight space with other people with recycled air and people not wearing their mask correctly. Now, it definitely made me feel uneasy, but I didn't feel entirely unsafe. I did some measures to try and make myself feel a little safer. Now I know Southwest has said that they've stopped wiping down all of the seats each flight because it takes too much time, but I brought my own hand sanitizer and a little spray, and I had a tissue and I wiped down my own area. There are things you can do, like wearing your own mask the whole time correctly, wiping down your own area, that can help it feel like a safer process. So you no longer get drink options. They give you water and a snack bag, and they gave me 3 snack bags on my first flight because I was hungry, but don't expect to get like the same sort of food and drink options. It's definitely very limited right now. So I think it might be in your best interest to pack some own food for yourself, or make sure that you have what you need with you on the plane, because there may not be what you need around in the airport. Overall, the process felt very similar to what it had in the past. Clearly, there are some major differences, like trying to keep further away from people, wearing your mask, and keeping clean, that have changed, but the actual process overall was very similar. So just expect to wear your mask, to wipe down your own seat, and to bring what you need, and I think you can make it through a flight with only a little uncomfortability. However, you need to take your own health and your own concerns into account. If any of this sounded too scary to you, if any of what you saw looks a little too uncomfortable to you, perhaps you shouldn't be flying just yet. However, this is your decision. You get to make it. I'm just here to give you a look at what the world is like right now. I hope this helped. I hope you found this informative. If you have any specific questions, go ahead and put them in the comments below. I do read the comments. I'll answer what I can. And thanks so much for watching. As always, bye travelers.